And welcome back. Like I said, every other week it's a Magic video, every other week it's a Pokemon video. Today, though, you will get both because we got a few call them spoilers to talk about. But we're talking Magic at the moment as I take a drink from my water. When I say Magic, I meant Pokemon. And as such, we're just doing some Gen 9 speculation. And I talked about what I thought the region might be. I've talked about what I thought the games and their plots might be. And I think it's now time to get into the Pokemon of the region speculation. Now, obviously, there are multiple forms of Pokemon, types of Pokemon, the starter Pokemon. Regional variants now are a big thing, which I'm sure certain will continue into further generations. They're too popular not to do, and they're an easy way to give us new Pokemon without actually giving us new Pokemon. So it allows us to kind of fill it up, fill the decks up with more ideas. And I mean, you get your standard line Pokemon, you get your pseudo legendaries, you get your legendaries, you get your trio. There's a lot we can talk about with different Pokemon. Multiple videos we can honestly do. But I think it's important that we start with the starters for obvious reasons. Now, keep in mind what I'm imagining the stars will be based off of a little bit of what I thought the region's going to be based off. In this case, a lot of people speculate it's India. I've been seeing a lot of rumors lately that say it's going to be India, and I kind of fall into the trope too, where I think it's going to be Indian based. So, granted, not every Pokemon fits the theme of the region that they're in. For instance, let's look at Galar most recently. The monkey Grookey. There was a thing where chimpanzees got loose in like London, I think, a while ago. But also think of the band The Monkees, and it was basically a drummer. So there you go. Rabbit, there are rabbits in the UK, and soccer is a big sport in the UK, so it made sense. Sobble was kind of a. I still don't actually know what Sobble was supposed to be in terms of it. Was it a salamander or was it a lizard? I mean, Inteleon is more of a lizard than a salamander, but either way, I'm going to go more salamander on that part. And there are salamanders in the UK too. That does not mean, keep in mind, that every Pokemon, that every starter that is in said region is based off a creature in that region. For example, let's actually look at Alola real quick. Rowlet, there are owls in Hawaii to the best of my knowledge. But Litten, sure, it's a cat, turns into a tiger. There are no tigers in Hawaii. Seal, that made sense. Go back even further with Kalos. There are foxes in France. But, I mean, Chespin being like a chipmunk, sure, I guess they're chipmunks, but whatever. And like Froakie a frog, well, any region could have a frog. That's not very, specific. Pig, otter, and vine snake in Gen 5. So it is a bit hit and miss. I don't think you'll see, like, maybe 2 out of 3 of these will be Pokemon that actually do exist in said region, but it's not going to be something that exists. What's the best way to put it? Not everything will be like, oh, okay, this is clearly based off a Pokemon from India. I don't quite think that's the case. But without further ado, let's talk about it. And let's actually start with the one that's probably the easiest to figure out, the fire starter. Now, there's always been a running theory that the Chinese Zodiac has been the inspiration for each fire starter. And so far, that seems to have fit. Charmander, Charizard, that's the dragon. Cyndaquil, it's technically the mouse. It is a fire mouse Pokemon. Torchic was the rooster. Obviously, Chimchar. Chimchar is the monkey, obviously. Embor or Pignite is the boar. Fennekin was the dog. Think words here. Litten was the tiger, and then most recently we had Scorbunny the rabbit. So it seems to follow that trope. So far, nothing has disproved this theory. If you want to get argumentative, you could make the argument Cyndaquil and Fennekin are fox and more of an echidna, but ultimately, no. They're labeled as such. Mouse and a fox is the type of dog. We'll keep it as such. So that begs the question then: what will the fire starter be? Will it be a sheep, a horse, a ox, or a snake? For me, it really comes down to there's 2 answers to this question. Uh, I don't think sheep is in the cards right now because I do think there's got to be some sort of symmetry with the region. I was about to say plane. I've got magic on the mind. With the region they're from. There are sheep in India, sure, and there are horses in India, sure, but they really don't have much of a cultural influence as the other two do. Cows are sacred in India. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe like some sort of oxen legendary Pokemon in an Indian-based region. It doesn't have to be one of the main legendaries, although we could make an argument for that in the legendary video we eventually do. But ox, cows, ox, bovine behemoth, they're sacred in India, so that would actually be pretty logical for an ox fire Pokemon. But for me, my money's on the snake, and I like this design. Now, this design is when looking up the designs for the Pokemon I was going to talk about, if there were any, I want to be sure I gave the right shout out to the right people, and I don't want to just be throwing images out there. This image though was made by DJ Sketches. And I like this little guy. I like this little guy. First off, you can clearly tell it is a snake, 100%. But it's got these two little metal nubs, which imply it could be a fire steel type when it evolves, and also kind of gives the cop out it kind of gives the excuse for the snake to develop legs if possible. And I like this little molten fire tip tail. It's a cute guy. I saw many different designs. I'm like, hey, look, I just want a snake fire Pokemon. I love snakes. Snakes are my favorite animal. We already got a grass one. So you might be asking, well, would they do that? Yeah, because Gen 9 would be 4 generations after Gen 5. And that's, almost 10 years now. Probably, if not, that's almost a decade separation. Plus, we already had 3 different bird Pokemon, each within different typings with Torchic, Litten, and Populo. So why can't you do 2 different snakes? I don't see why you couldn't do that. In fact, I'm thinking of that real quick. Is there any type of animal that's repeated with there's a monkey Pokemon and a monkey Pokemon. One's a fire, one's a grass type. So there you go. You could have another snake starter Pokemon. It's not a big deal. I think I've heard a lot of people, even with a lot of the rumors that obviously aren't true. Hell, even with one that I heard that was based off Russia, it still has snake starter. I feel like a snake starter is the one a lot of people are now kind of going for when it comes to the fire starter. And I am kind of in that same boat. I would really think of snakes. I mean, any starter is fine as long as it evolves properly. Because I honestly didn't like Scorbunny's design that much. It's not like he's ugly. He's too cute. He's too derpy, and his face is just a ripoff of Chespin's. I will give him this. The evolutionary line, actually, Reboot, I do not like Reboot at all, but Cinderace doesn't look bad. In hindsight, I'm like, Cinderace is okay. But other times, okay, Litten looked nice. Torracat looks cool. What did you do to Incineroar? Why do they always have to be on 2 legs? Your grass starters don't always end up on 2 legs. Your water starters don't always end up on 2 legs. So why does the fire freaking starter always end up on 2 legs? The only exception to that rule when it comes to fire starters is technically Typhlosion. If you look at in the anime and stuff, Typhlosion isn't actually bipedal. It's based more off like a honey badger and kind of like a bear mixed together. And because of that, it is partially bipedal, but it also moves on all 4s too. But yeah, anyway, I would go to the grass for a snake for the fire starter. The other 2 though, now I don't have any images for a secondary option, but I will give secondary options for them. Let's move on to the grass one. Now the grass one, there always is themes, and by the way, lately with say Gen 6 and beyond, there seems to be a universal concept with the starters as well. The Kalos starters were based off of RPG tropes: the mage, the fighter, the rogue. The Alola stars were based off of performers like wrestling, singing, archery. The most recent ones, the Galar stars, were based off of pop culture references of the UK, be it the punk rock scene with I actually can't remember the I can't remember the actual final evolution of Grookey's name. I remember Thwacky and I remember Grookey. I can't remember, and he was my favorite of the three. I can't remember that one, but he was a drummer for a band. Cinderace was a soccer player, which is very big in the UK. And Teleon was based off spy films like James Bond, very popular. So it's very likely there will be a central theme, whatever it may be, with the starters. But the wide believed theory with the grass starter is it's not its starting form, mind you, but its final evolution is based off of some sort of extinct animal. You look at Bulbasaur; it's clearly a dinosaur of some kind, like a dinosaur toad thing with a flower on its back. Meganium's clearly like a long-necked dinosaur. Grovyle is clearly like a raptor of some kind. Torterra is a giant turtle, which those existed. Superior is, I believe, supposedly based off of a Titanoboa. And see, hearing those, I'm like, that's not Titan. First of all, I don't believe Titanoboa was discovered when Gen 5 came out. So I'm starting to get the impression when people say it's like, that's not quite what these guys are based off of. But either way, what could we see from a grass starter? And one idea that came to me is the elephant concept. But given the fact that we know Caparaja is from a separate region, and it's most likely this region, two different elephant Pokemon in the same region, one is starter, one not, I don't think that's very likely. Then again, I'm someone who thinks that if we get a Indian region with this Fire Snake starter, we'd also get a regional Arbok variant. So what do I know? But still, I don't think the elephant starter makes a lot of sense. What about a cat starter, like a lion that gets a big mane of bushy leaves and stuff like that? That's not a bad idea. We actually haven't had really any cat starters since Litten. But again, I don't think we'd go with that because if we got an Indian region, we'd get a proper tiger Pokemon. So I don't think like a cat would be very advantageous. So what else do we have to go with? Well, this a design from Pokemon Radiant and Pokemon Shadow, which I found mostly on Pinterest. I couldn't find the actual artist. If someone could find me the artist, I'd be really appreciative. I think that Clark Karkji from Instagram might be the creator, as you can see there. This design for a Sloth Pokemon, I think would actually be pretty cute. A Sloth starter is definitely a unique concept. We have only had one Sloth Pokemon with Slack Off, Vigor Off, and Slacking. So we could be due for another Sloth Pokemon. I'd be completely okay with that. Because keep in mind too, the starting form of starter needs to be like the babe, needs to be like the innocent cute guy. And look at that thing. That thing is adorable. Now, granted, I'll be honest. If they did I almost always choose the grass starter first. But if they gave me a fire snake starter, I might have to forgo my usual rule. But I think it'd also be cool because keep in mind at the moment there is kind of like a back and forth trope with them. For instance, Chespin kind of was the heavy hitter with physical defense and physical attack. Delphox was the special defense, special attack, and Greninja was attack and speed. Then you move on to the next regional. Lola, Decidueye was definitely the special attacker and the speed hitter. Incineroar was the heavy-duty fighter type. And then Primarina was the special attacker. And then you moved on to Galar, where you had, oh God, I want to remember, you know what? Hold on one second. I'm looking up that damn Grookey. What Grookey evolutions. What was the name of that damn evolution? It was a Rillaboom. That was it. How could I forget Rillaboom? Rillaboom had a cool name. I liked Rillaboom. I like the Super Saiyan 3 hair too. Rillaboom was definitely the big, hefty guy of the group, and the other two were actually pretty light attackers. So, I mean, it would follow in suit, but you could actually subvert expectations with that with actually making a Sloth into a fast Pokemon. You could subvert expectations that way, and that could be kind of fun. I could think. But then again, if you have the Snake starter already, unless it's going to turn into like this very thick, not moving around, heavy defensive fire, steel tank or whatever, just based on the image I had, the fire starter is usually the quicker of the. I can't think of a slow fire Pokemon starter. I can think of slow fire Pokemon, like Slugma, sure, but I can't think of a slow starter fire Pokemon. Charizard might be the slowest. just because of he is a little bulky, but no, Typhlosion, he's not speedy, but he's quicker than, average. Blaziken, definitely Infernape, oh yeah. Embor was definitely a chunky boy. Embor was definitely a big guy. He was a big pig. You could be a big pig too. Oi! So yeah, okay, you can get them, but if you're giving me a snake fire starter, I'm assuming it's going to be on the quicker side. So you might subvert expectations, but ultimately, if you had a Sloth, a starter Pokemon, it wouldn't be that fast. That being said, I like his design where he has this little bow tie, because one of the ideas you could have, if you're going with themes from Indian culture, would be Bollywood. Bollywood is huge over there. It's their Hollywood. And Bollywood is huge. Like, you get Bollywood movies over here, for God's sake, if they're that big. So I would imagine one of these Pokemon would be like a Bollywood-based Pokemon, like a singing, dancing performer type Pokemon. Why not make it the Sloth? I think that would be really cool. But yeah, and then finally we have the water starter. Now the water starter, I actually think you could make because there are water buffalo in India. You could easily make a water buffalo starter Pokemon. Absolutely. I think that would be really cool. That would make a lot of sense. And I've seen many concepts for that. So, I mean, you have that out right there. But ultimately, I like the idea because it hasn't been done yet, and this was made years ago. And this actually went into Temtems, actually. Don't know if this is Temtem or the original Pokemon starter, but the platypus concept. Now, granted, I'd like that to be saved for an Australian-based region, but not every Pokemon that you get is from the region in the region that they're in is based off the place the region is based off of. Again, places like Galar. There are no monkeys in Galar. There are no monkeys in the UK unless they're in the zoo. So, except for the time that I think some chimpanzees got loose, there's really no reason for him to be a monkey. Now, obviously, the monkeys, all that, he's, making music. It makes sense in that context. But let's be clear, there are no monkeys in the UK. There are salamanders and rabbits. There are no tigers in Hawaii. So, Incineroar theoretically doesn't make sense. I mean, sure there are frogs in France. Sure, like technically speaking, you can make an argument. All the guys that are in France are in France. And I guess you can make the argument too for Unova, though I can't remember if there are I'm pretty sure there are North American otters. North American otters, those a thing? Because I know otters live a lot in Europe, South America. I know there's Asian otters, but I'll be honest, I actually can't recall. I think there are otters in North America. Yeah, North American. Okay, there are North American river otters. I felt like there were, but at the same time, I couldn't be. I wasn't 100% positive. So I mean, while I would be really out of the left field, the platypus thing would be cool. But if we didn't get a platypus, and let's be honest, the chances would be slim, especially if it's based on India, not Australia. If it were based on Australia, no, 100% we would get a platypus starter, I think. But if it wasn't based on Australia and based on India, then probably not the platypus. We probably would get. I actually feel like the water buffalo Pokemon would make a lot of logical sense, and there's a lot of designs you could do with that too. That would mean though you'd have to save on the buffalo Pokemon later on, or the ox, the ox Pokemon later on for fire starters, but just because two back-to-back stars like that doesn't work. But. And, the beauty of the whole fire snake, to close it out real quick, is that if any of my theories, like the big three theories, turned out to be correct, India, Australia, or South America, fire snake starter works out perfectly for all three of those, because snakes are in every one of those locations and have a heavy presence in those locations. So, ultimately, of any of those, the one I feel, not the design, honestly, that was a fan-made design. But of any of the starter Pokemon theories, I do feel most comfortable with the Fire Starter Snake. Fire Snake Starter. I think that one is almost it's not a lock, but I feel like it's the most likely concept A, of the 4 remaining fire starters we have to go over in terms of the Chinese Zodiac, and B, of the 3 starters in general. But we've got at least another year before we hear anything about Gen 9. Minimum. So, yeah, because we still got the next main, Jesus, we still got the next main series game coming out into 2021, which is almost certainly going to be Diamond and Pearl remix. And then the following year, we will probably go into Gen 9, because that will make sense. Sword and Shield has only been out now for about a year, along with the DLCs. So that you get 1 year without it. And they said it'll be about 3 years. It will be 3 years since, it will make perfect sense. 100% perfect sense. And luckily, it should still be on the Switch and the Switch Lite and all that stuff, because you're not going to just make a couple Pokemon games. You're not going to just make a Let's Go game, 1 remake, and 1 main series generation game, and be like, okay, we're done. Let's make the next console. No, you're not going to do that. To be fair, I'm not certain what the next stage to go past the Switch really is, because the Switch is both a handheld and a console all at once. So I don't know where you go. You're just going to implant it in our brains now. I mean, we aren't necessarily far from that concept, but I would be a little remiss to think, are we going that route? Anyway, that's my thoughts on the stars. What are your thoughts on the ideas of what the starter Pokemon in Gen 9 could be? Put in the comments below. Let me know. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. Hit that bell if you want notifications. Remember, we've got the Q&A coming near the end of the year. Just keep your eyes out for that. Then, put your questions in the Q&A video. Not in my video, not in these videos, but just in the Q&A video, because it's not going to get answered if it's in any of the other videos. Until then, though, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I've got one more video to do, but it won't be till later, because I want as much of the spoilers for Caldom to be out before I talk about everything that came out. So until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Later.